In the ongoing new power struggle, India and China have rejected the US request to reduce their oil purchases from Russia. Russia, in turn, has escalated its nuclear threats. With only 5 days left until Trump's deadline for Russia, the war in Ukraine continues, and a US representative is heading to Moscow. This comes at a time when the Western conflict in the Middle East has not been resolved and the possibility of another war between Israel, the United States, and Iran has increased. Hello, welcome to Khabar Day. I am Shakla Shams, and my colleague Mohammad Rashad Zarif from Studio 2 is with us to cover this news. Hello, Zarif. In the tension between the West and the East, what were the reactions of India and China to Trump's threat not to buy oil from Russia?
India's response, like China's, has been sharp and explicit. India, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs, said in a statement that purchasing oil from Russia is an internal, national, and vital issue for us. We will continue to buy oil and will not yield to any pressures, nor will we submit to the pressure of any world leaders, governments, or powers. China had the same reaction. China also said yesterday that it will continue to buy oil from Russia and will not give in to bullying or coercion. Of course, Trump's tariff wars, which have been ongoing since the beginning of his administration, are more political than economic in nature. And these same sanctions that have recently been imposed or threatened, targeting imports from China and India, while the US is one of the hottest markets for Chinese products and Indian goods, he has said he will sanction these imports. The main reason is because of their trade relations with Russia, as both India and China are the largest buyers of Russian oil. And the intention is to put pressure on Russia, supposedly because Moscow did not cooperate with Washington and Mr. Trump in the Ukraine war.
Zarif, how much oil do China and India buy from Russia, and why is this issue against Trump's wishes?
China imports about 2 million barrels of crude oil daily from Russia, and India is a bit different. China was already the first and largest buyer of Russian oil, and now India has become the second largest buyer of Russian oil. India imports 1.8 million barrels of oil daily. Actually, China imports 2 million and India 1.8 million barrels of crude oil from Russia, making India the second largest oil buyer. Why? Buying oil from Russia goes against Mr. Trump's wishes because Trump believes that before the Ukraine war, India didn't buy much oil from Russia. It was only after the Ukraine war that India's oil purchases from Russia gradually increased, making it the second largest buyer of Russian oil. Now, after China, India buys almost 1/3 of Russia's crude oil. And Trump believes that in the Ukraine war, all the money flowing from India and China to Russia because of oil purchases is fueling Russia's war machine, which, according to Mr. Trump, has engaged in the killing of Ukrainian people. He thinks this makes Russia's war machine even more active and even accuses China and India, or rather the United States or Mr. Donald Trump himself accuses them of supporting Russia in the Ukraine war. This issue of Ukraine is also due to the ultimatum that Mr. Trump recently gave to Russia, of which only 5 days remain, and it will end on the 17th of Assad. He has threatened to impose multiple new sanctions on Russia in various fields. Now, he will place Russia under these sanctions, and he himself will implement them. And we saw Russia's reactions, which, unlike China and India, did not give in. And now these four powers are constantly in conflict and tension with each other day and night.
Zarif, where do the tensions between Moscow and Washington lead? In your opinion, will these nuclear threats lead to a direct war?
Well, these threats started with Mr. Medvedev's statements. The former president and former prime minister, deputy security advisor, deputy of Russia's National Security Council, and a very close friend of Mr. Putin, as well as one of the most prominent politicians. Although there has been no official announcement and what he says is not considered the policy of the Moscow government, it is still influential. To the extent that when Mr. Medvedev said that the former Soviet Union's nuclear capabilities are still intact, he threatened the United States, saying that if you take one step further, threaten us, and issue ultimatums, we are neither Israel nor Iran. We are still a nuclear power, and the possibility of a direct war between the United States and Russia exists. It was after this that Mr. Trump became emotional and in response wrote on Truth Social that we have deployed 2 nuclear-equipped submarines to a suitable area near Russia for our protection, and this nuclear standoff gradually escalated, and after that, Russia also made an announcement. Just yesterday, the Russian Foreign Ministry announced that we are no longer committed to the INF Treaty, which was signed in 1987 between the then Soviet Union and the United States, and they have increased their nuclear threats. Now, given its consequences, it will not lead to a nuclear war. But why, in today's complex global power dynamics, where several significant powers are actively striving for leadership and influence, can this particular situation have such a profound impact and play a crucial role in shaping future events?
What is this treaty about not building nuclear missiles that Russia is talking about withdrawing from? Does this mean that a serious nuclear war is about to begin?
Well, ever since the early 19th century, all the major world's powers have consistently tried to prevent the proliferation, the widespread dissemination, the actual use and the production of both nuclear and atomic weapons, a critical global concern, because it would destroy and devastate the world. Everyone knows what consequences nuclear and atomic bombs have for the planet and for humanity. There was a treaty between the United States and the Soviet Union at a time when Mr. Mikhail Gorbachev was the president of the Soviet Union and Mr. Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States. At that time, in 1987, these two countries signed a treaty called the INF, in which they committed not to build, deploy, or display intermediate-range and long-range nuclear missiles in order to prevent their proliferation. Intermediate-range missiles are those with a range from 500 kilometers to 5,500 kilometers. These are intermediate-range missiles equipped with nuclear warheads. Now, in 2019, Mr. Donald Trump withdrew from this treaty. He withdrew but did not take any action. In other words, he did not deploy or station any submarines or nuclear missiles. Then, in response to Trump's move, Russia said that it would unilaterally remain in the treaty as long as the US did not take any practical steps. Finally, now that the US has taken practical action and moved 2 of its nuclear submarines close to Russia, now Russia has announced that it is no longer committed to this treaty either, and Mr. Medvedev read a statement from the Russian Foreign Ministry spokesperson saying that Russia is also no longer bound by the INF Treaty and can use and expand its arsenal of intermediate and long-range nuclear missiles. Mr. Medvedev shared this again, reposted it on his X account, and warned that countries should take this matter seriously. And truly, although the issue of nuclear war is not a practical reality, it has become very serious at the level of statements and opinions.
Thank you very much, Zarin. Let's continue with the news. The Canadian government announced in a statement that the Canadian Armed Forces used a CC-130J Hercules aircraft to deliver vital humanitarian aid in support of Global Affairs Canada to the Gaza Strip. This air shipment included 21 600 pounds of aid. Canada's Department of National Defence reported that this was the first humanitarian air shipment by the Canadian Armed Forces over Gaza using their own aircraft. These were the most important headlines of this hour presented to you. Thank you for your attention. Have a good time.